Da-da-da-da. Let's see here. All right, so doors are open. We'll see how we do. We were light on registrants, we saw, but we do have them coming in, so that's good. All right, good. So perfect. So we're just opening up our class now, and once we get everybody in, we'll do a little introduction to who is all here as far as our panelists. Those of you who are actually joining us, we don't have you on camera, but you'll be able to communicate with us through the chat box. Tony will actually put a little note in there to direct you to the chat box. Any questions that you have as we're going through the program, please ask. This program is essentially part of what we call now our Kimball Financial Wealth Series. We're doing some sort of program every month in video, some sort of educational piece. A week from today, we are actually going to have a credit expert on talking all about credit. So we're a little bit doubled up this month, but I like it. Jim Drusky, who owns Illinois Credit Services, he'll be speaking a week from today at this time. In the meantime, you didn't come here for credit. You came here because either we closed your loan last month, and we did send this invitation to everybody who we closed last month, or you're a homeowner. If you want to learn how to get better financially fit, you are in the right place. So we've got, while our screen is big relative to our faces, I always have great guests who actually align with my philosophies in investing. And so Minesh and I have spoken about what his philosophies are, my philosophies are, and they align. And because there's some product we're going to talk about as we get into the program that I'm not a fan of, but financial advisors are, because they make a lot of money on them. So with that, I wanted to introduce Minesh Baxi and his daughter, Muskan Baxi, who are in business together as financial planners. Minesh does an incredible amount of other things, and we've worked with Minesh now for over 5 years. So Minesh and Muskan, if you want to just say hello and introduce yourself, and then we'll get into, I'll turn over the PowerPoint once you guys get done.
Thank you so much, Rich, for inviting us. And Tony does a great job. She's such a good right-hand person for you. I've known her now for so long, and it's just amazing. You got a great team around you, Rich. There is no question. So I really feel privileged that we are part of this panel today. My daughter is 18. She's starting in business with us in financial services. The main idea behind it is very simple. Most people do not take the right action, or in fact, do not even take action because there is so much confusion generated by the financial community. These people want people to stay ignorant. So that's why my goal is very simple. Let's educate people on what's good for them so that simple, easy things they can do and understand, implement in their own lives to be financially free sooner than later. So Muskan, you want to just share quickly, 60 seconds?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Muskan. As I said, my dad said I turned 18 just a few months back as I get started into business on my own. And I'm really privileged to be working alongside my dad. He is my best friend and the best mentor ever. And I'm really excited to kind of get into it today and talk a little bit about this. This is a really fun topic for me.
That's good. That's good. We've got young and old perspective too. I love it. So that's good. All right, let's go grab our PowerPoint and let's see here. We're going to do this. And all right, let me make a couple little adjustments so I can see you guys, and then drop the chat screen down. So make a little adjustments, then we'll get the presentation going from, where'd she go? Slideshow from the beginning. Ta-da. All right, perfect. So you guys can all see that, right? Perfect. Everybody's giving me a thumbs up. You can see it. Little note in the chat that you guys can see this nice little dollar here. Okay, good. So we're going to get rolling. So let me know if you guys can see this. Panelists, you guys can see this, right? Okay, good. So sometimes when it takes the full screen, it kind of freaks me out a little bit. But anyway, so we're in good shape. So part one to this really is building a strong foundation. And foundation, as many of you know, is, when we think about foundation, you think about a house. I think that's really important because a house is kind of where it begins, which again is why this program is for homeowners. But before we get into the house part of it, really you need to know where you currently are. And it doesn't, again, preferably you're all homeowners, but maybe you're a new homeowner, maybe you've been a homeowner for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. What we're going to talk about today can still help you. And I know it can, because when I'm working with somebody who might have been in their home for 10 years and we're working on a refinance, a lot of the things that we're about to talk about now, they haven't done. So again, we just need to know where we're all at today, but more importantly, where do we want to be? Everybody wants to be financially free and independent. Now, the question is, of course, what does that mean for a lot of you? It varies a ton. I might want to be financially free and independent, but still want to work. Others might want to actually be independent to be able to donate and give away their time to charity, or to take care of other causes, or to start that business. It means something different to everybody. Ultimately, what we're going to talk about today is how you can lay a nice plan to get there and what the foundation of that plan is. So let's see here. We'll go right in here. We talked about a house being the beginning of the plan or the foundation. 90% of all millionaires started with some sort of real estate or own real estate. 90%. Your house is a great vehicle for wealth. For our new homeowners that we're working with, once you close, you'll get an email from us from a product we call HomeBot. It's a great place to manage your equity and really see what that's worth. But I really want to talk about other ways to protect the house. Before we do that, and again, this one slide, this will be the only slide that we really address for all of our new homeowners. For our new homeowners, we closed a loan with last month or the last couple months. If you missed last month's class, couple quick questions that we want to answer. Number one, where do you send your payments? If you closed last month, when you closed, there was a coupon in your closing package that told you where to send your payments. And typically within 30 days of your closing, you'll get something from your servicer. Could be Cross Country Mortgage. It could be the company that we actually sold the mortgage to. We don't keep them all. Either way, you're going to get something in the mail that tells you where you can send your payments. It'll give you an internet connection, a website, I should say, to log in, maybe your new account number if you're with a new company, and a phone number. And of course, the most common question I get when I do my follow-up calls is, can I set up automatic withdrawals to my checking account? Heck yes. The lenders love that. They don't want to open mail, so they would prefer that you link your account and set up your payments automated. You just need to wait till you get that first letter so you know the company that's actually going to be collecting your payments. Now, the last thing that I wanted to add, and I do need to expand one thing so I could see, perfect. The last thing that I wanted to add was, as a new homeowner, if you are a new homeowner and not somebody we refinanced last month, new homeowners are about to get a flood of garbage mail. And I want to talk about why for a second and then what you're going to get. Number one, when you bought the home and the mortgage was recorded and the deed changed hands, that became a matter of public record in the county that you closed in. So there are professional marketing companies that go scour county records, pull as much data as they can get from the public records, and then they sell it out to various companies that will now create mailing pieces that look like they're from me or the lender that closed your loan recently. So one warning that I would give you when you get those pieces is open them up, go right to the fine print, because the fine print, typically the first sentence is, we are not affiliated with Cross Country Mortgage. So when you see that, you could take that and shred that. And I would shred that because they've pulled that public information. While it's public, I still wouldn't throw it in the garbage. So if you get anything, and by the way, you're going to get offers for whole life insurance, credit life insurance, other mortgage offerings. We even had a customer last year who showed us a piece that they got where this company wanted to charge them $50 to send them a printed copy of their recorded mortgage, which they could find online themselves. But they wanted to charge them $50 to do it. It's ridiculous. If you, my customers, receive anything in the mail that you're unsure of, feel free to scan, email that over, mail it to me, get it to me. I'll take a look and let you know if it's something that you should be concerned with. We like seeing that stuff anyway, because it just gives us an idea of the ridiculous amount of mail that you're going to get from these marketing companies. So that's our post-closing advice. Now on to our next step. Now, we talked about the home being the foundation. And when you bought your house, you had to get it insured, meaning that if a fire happened, a tree fell on it, there was a flood, something like that, it's covered. But is it really protected? So what we want to talk about next is what happens to, you're in a house, you just bought your house. What the heck happens to your house if something happens to you? I strongly encourage everybody who has a home to get a basic will. If you don't have a will, more often than not, the state of Illinois, assuming I closed your loan in Illinois, we do loans in all 50 states, and there are probably some clients here from Wisconsin and Florida who we closed last month. If you're in Illinois, the state of Illinois gets to make a decision about what happens to your house. Now, I don't know about you guys, but the state of Illinois makes very bad decisions, and I certainly don't want them making a decision about what happens to my house. I would rather have a will. A will is a great tool to not only protect your family, but also make sure the house goes where it belongs. Couple quick stories before we move on to the next slide. A lot of times we'll have a couple buy a home and one spouse goes on the property. Let's say it's a second or third marriage / relationship. Something happens to the spouse that's on title. Even though the intention of the couple was that this was going to be their forever home that they would retire in and pass away in, the person on title, something happens to them, their family comes in and says, we want the equity, and they have the spouse removed from the property. I've seen it. It's horrible. So I'm telling you, very, very simple, very cheap. We polled a bunch of attorneys on the cost, very cheap to set up a will. I strongly advise you to set up one. Minesh, do you do anything with regards to wills and clients before I move on to the next slide?
Actually, that's a very good point. We offer a program called Legalshield, where people can get the will done very inexpensive. And what happens is it's a subscription. You can cancel at any time within the first 60, 90 days. If they get the will done, which doesn't take a whole lot, they would have spent less than $100.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Legalshield would be a good way to do that. So, and you're right, less than $100 and you've got a will prepared. So, no, it's perfect. All right. So the next part of coverage, in other words, protecting yourself, is term insurance. So term insurance, and I talked to you originally when I started this, I said, hey, we aligned very much with Minesh and Muskan in our beliefs that term insurance is the best insurance product. Term insurance is simply just that. We've locked in a dollar amount for a set amount of years, and we'll go into a chart in a second. And there's no savings products or anything else that has anything to do with it. And we'll talk about what that looks like in a second. But term insurance is an excellent way to protect the property for various reasons. Now, there's a lot of reasons that people don't get insurance. They're discussed here. How much they'll need, how much, do they qualify for it? Again, I'm gonna ask Minesh, as far as qualifying, if you're in your 30s or 40s, how hard is it to get term insurance?
Very good point. So the only thing is that people need to be aware that it is based on age and health. If you are in great health or in decent health, and if you are young, relatively speaking, I'm 59, I can still get life insurance. So that's not a big deal. The only challenge happens is about health. And I'll give a quick point here. My wife at the age of 23, 2 weeks into our wedding, she actually got diagnosed with lupus. She was in hospital for a week. A year later, she had a flare up. She got chemotherapy and all that stuff for a year and a half. Sorry to say, she could not qualify for life insurance at that time, which is why the younger you are, the healthier you are, you should go get it. Now, today she can get it because it's been over 20 years. Does it answer your question, Rich?
Yeah, very, very much so. So we want to talk about, what to shop for, how much is needed and that type of thing. So First of all, ideally a term, if you can lock in a rate today when you're young, you want to lock it in as long as you can, or until which point you think you would be retired, where maybe insurance isn't that big of a deal, but I would want to lock it in as long as possible. So how much do you need? Really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. And I'm going to give you a couple different examples. So I had a real estate agent in one of our offices. He and his wife, 3 young kids, all under the age of 5. She was a stay-at-home mom. They bought their dream home, $500,000 home. And regrettably, he was killed in a motor vehicle accident, 3 months after they bought the home. She's a stay-at-home mom. They had no insurance at all. I promise you guys that unless they had big family with big pockets, she wasn't going to stay in that home and raise those kids in that home. And that was really, I'm sure, what they wanted. So then the question becomes, how much insurance would they need to maintain? Well, ideally, you just want to look at the lost income that he would have made over the next, let's say we just want to get the kids out of high school. They're between the ages of 1 and 5. So we want to make sure we've got enough income to cover, let's say, the next 20 years. So if we have enough income to cover the next 20 years, based on what the person made, Minesh, if this gentleman made $100,000, how much income, how much insurance do you think we might have to cover to take care of that for the next 20 years?
Usually 5 to 10 times the annual income.
Okay.
And that's because obviously a certain percentage you can depend on to investments to feed the family on a regular basis.
Excellent. Excellent. So how much you need, you can seek a financial professional like Minesh and Muskan to figure out how much you need, but you should have something, and then just figure out, a lot of people are dual income. So if you lose one income, it's not the end of the world, but you got qualified to be in that house because you have 2 incomes. So if we lost one income, do we get just enough insurance to pay off the mortgage? And now the surviving party only has to address taxes and insurance, and they can afford that on their income. That's pretty simple math. We just pay off the mortgage, then we don't have to worry about it. We take care of taxes and insurance going forward. Here's a simple chart that talks about the average cost. So a 40-year-old male, I would assume this is in preferred applicants, so in good health, 40-year-old male, it's less than $30 a month. That is super, super, super cheap. So again, what do we want to cover? We want to cover income loss, expenses, maybe pay off the mortgage. Everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. The cost will depend on age and health. And then the last part is, who can you trust to go get some more information? Financial advisor would be the perfect person to trust. Your lender, me, you can come to me and I'll give you some names of great people like Minesh and Muskan, or you could go to your homeowners and agent. Now, the one thing I want you to try to avoid, some people you seek will want to sell you universal insurance, whole life insurance. It's a totally different type of insurance. It's life insurance, but it has a savings piece to it. And the problem is, one of the reasons that somebody wants to sell it to you is because it's the highest paying commission of all financial service products. And so somebody that wants to sell that to you is going to do very well. But at the end of the day, it's not a product I endorse. It's not a product Minesh endorse. You want simple term insurance. Minesh, do you want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, so to make it simple for people to understand, every life insurance product sold in the market is basically foundation-wise a term life insurance. The problem is when they add any other name to it, universal, whole life, cash value, whatever you want to call that, what they're doing is they're taking the term life policy and adding other bells and whistles to it, which really are the ways for the company to create more commission. So you as a consumer are not going to get the advantage of a plain simple term life insurance because they want to make more commission. So if it says anything other than term life insurance, you should immediately stop the conversation with the agent and move on.
Yeah, that's, you know what, it was funny because when I was looking at the slide this morning, I said the same thing to myself. If you ask and they offer it to you and you say, I'm not interested, if they didn't hear you, so and they try to sell you that product again, thank you very much, and go find yourself somebody else that'll take care of you. So keep in mind, guys, as we go through this, and I know Minesh and I are great, but if you got questions, please ask and throw them in the chat. So we definitely want this to be interactive. Perfect. So Jessica asked, what if somebody, oh, okay, here, this is good. This is a perfect question for you, Minesh. Jessica asked, what if somebody already has whole life insurance plan? Can they switch?
Very good point, Jessica. So very, very, very important point. So the first thing I always recommend is do not cancel anything you already have. That is number one, because I want to make sure you have some life insurance compared to none. So here is the first step. Keep it at least until the discussion is over. Now what we need to do, we need to go compare apples and apples instead of apples and oranges. So the next step you would take is go find what term life insurance you can get. Now, why whole life insurance specifically in this case? I'll give two very simple information here for you to know. What happens, just like Rich said, you are paying for life insurance, which is called the cost of insurance, and you're also paying for a savings product as well. Unfortunately, there are three problems with it. We won't go into detail today here talking about it, but one of the things which will happen is the beneficiary will get a choice at the passing away of the person. Either they will get the coverage amount, which was already designated, or the savings amount. The reality is you paid for both of them. So why is the company keeping one of those amounts? That's where you and I know whole life insurance is not in your advantage. So the next step would be that come to me, I would walk you through, help you fully understand what you really have. And then based on the fine print, unfortunately, there is fine print, you and I can understand what the next step could be. But the two simple things to do, number one is make sure you don't cancel anything right now. And number two, let's compare and find out what you can get.
For term insurance, yeah.
For term insurance.
Yeah, get the term insurance in place first, and then you can unravel and get yourself out of that, unfortunately, bad product. So, all right. So part two, we want to talk about paying yourself first. So in several books, which we promote, The Latte Factor is one, The Millionaire Next Door is another great book, both written by David Bach, I believe. And then there's also The Richest Man in Babylon. They all kind of focus on the concept that we're going to talk about next, which is paying yourself first. So why is it important to pay yourself first? And how simple is it to pay yourself first? So imagine if you make $18 an hour and you work 8 hours a day, but you actually designated that first hour of the day as your money. So that 18 bucks, that first 18 bucks is your money. You're paying yourself. So if you saved $18 a day, 5 days a week for 52 weeks, you could actually save over $4,500 just by paying yourself that first hour a day. One of the other ways you can pay yourself first is to get rid of your credit card debt. And we're going to talk about how to do that. But credit card debt is nasty. It's if you make minimum payments, it's like having a 30-year mortgage. You'll pay a ridiculous amount of interest over time for that. So we do talk about how to get rid of that. Creating emergency fund, we're going to talk about that. Having a 3 to 6 month survival number, we're going to talk about that. The examples here in the slide about what that looks like, but we're going to talk a little bit more deeper about that. And we're going to talk about establishing a 401k. Many of you have an opportunity to do that and are not taking advantage of it, and you're leaving dollars on the floor. So we're going to talk about all this good stuff. And perfect. Minesh, if you want to put your information, actually, I don't know, Tony, do you want to add Minesh's information in there? Tony will add Minesh's information. Jessica is going to reach out to you, Minesh. So she said, thank you very much. So again, we appreciate the interaction. So we have a class that we teach, and we have decided that we will be teaching this class every other month. So the class that you guys are watching now, we will teach that again in the month of May. Next month, we will go back to our personal budget class. This is a big part of what we're going to talk about today, If you are interested in getting a copy of our personal budget, email us, text us, send us some sort of message. I will send you the personal budget in an Excel spreadsheet. Why that's important is because the things that you enter in the budget form will carry over, certain things will carry over to the next month. Completing this form is critically important, but we're only going to focus on a handful of things here because really this slide's about a survival number. So how do we figure that survival number out? In our budget class, we talk about at the end of the month, after the month is over and you've paid everything, is going back through your checkbook, pulling your statement up and figuring out what your minimum amount you had to pay for all of your bills. I'm not looking for, you sent the mortgage company an extra $100, you sent the credit card company an extra $400 to pay it off. What was your minimum payment on the credit card? What was your minimum payment on the mortgage? All of those things that you paid in the prior month go into column 2. So column 2 then will calculate out, and we'll show you the next slide. Our system, column 2 will calculate out, this is just a sample that we did for the class. The person in our example paid out about $36.51 minimum amount due. They actually paid out a little bit more than that. You see that in column 3, but again, we're just talking about survival number. Our form automatically calculates 3 months of that survival number. Now it's a little bit small, but I got the, hopefully you guys can see that. There's a number, whoops, we got to go back. Sorry about that, guys. There is a number down at the bottom that says $10,953. That is 3 months of a survival number. So we have to figure out what our survival number is, and then we got to figure out if we need 3, 4, 5, or 6 months. Now, in the example that I have here, you'll notice the number above that is about $3,975. That's what they're saving towards the survival number. Do not beat yourself up if you do not have your survival number squared away. The important thing is that you start tracking it, you know what it is, and you could watch the money that you save grow so you can get to that point. Now, a couple other things about survival number. This example is for 3 months. I tell people to set the number based on how long they would be out of work based on their line of work. So what do I mean? If your company were to lay you off, how quickly can you get a job? If it's pretty quickly because whatever you do is in high demand and you could be working within 30 days, 3 months is a perfect number. If you're in a different type of career, let's say you're a high paying executive, let's say you have, you're in a high paying job, or it's very limited the number of people that would actually need your services, or maybe there's just a flood of people that do that and it is harder to land a job, I would lean towards 6 months. So that's my measure of how you should set your comfort level up. I would definitely lean towards 6 months. Now, we also talked about in here, oh, by the way, thank you, Tony, for adding Minesh's contact information. So one other thing that we talked about is credit card debt. Okay, Rich, how do I save my survival number and pay off my credit cards at the same time? A lot of financial advisors would tell you, don't do anything, pay off the credit cards first. I strongly disagree. What I would suggest, let's say you're paying yourself first and you say, no matter what, I'm taking $400 a month out to put towards my savings. On that $400, so you've paid yourself first, all the other bills get paid afterwards. On that $400, if you have credit card debt, $200 of it goes to paying down your credit card debt, $200 of it goes towards building your emergency fund. The reason I don't want you to rush to pay off the credit card debt and ignore the emergency fund is because if you have an emergency, it's going to end up right back on the credit cards. If you're building your emergency fund while paying off your credit cards, you now have a place to go so that you don't add to that debt. So this form in this class, we'll talk about, Tony, I'm not sure if we've got a date picked up. We do. April 16th, we'll be teaching our budget class. So if you want to know how to complete the entire form and everything about it, come back same time, 9 a.m. Zoom, come back there. Before I leave this slide, Minesh, any questions or any points you want to make about a survival number?
Yes, very good. So I think you covered everything very, very well. This is definitely the way I think There are people who tell you that you should go pay off the credit card debt first, and I totally support your thinking. The emergencies is a problem that will go back to credit card.
Yeah.
The main point I want to mention is we offer what is called a financial needs analysis, where we actually cover this information in a totally no obligation conversation, where they can actually create their own budget through a software and also look at the way to pay off their debt so that they can be out of debt faster because the software calculates all the numbers, and also create a budget sheet for you. So if you are looking for somebody to hold your hand in the process, we do it at no cost to you.
Yeah, I saw some of the videos on that stuff. It's super, super exciting. So that's why I'm glad we're aligned with you on this stuff. So, okay. So we've got the credit card debt. We know what we're going to do with it. So let's assume it's handled. Let's assume we've got the emergency fund exactly where we want it to be or on track. The next biggest fault I see with a lot of folks, and I'm in a unique situation as a mortgage loan officer. We see more of a client than anybody else does. So, and accountants don't necessarily see credit. They don't necessarily see assets. Financial planners may see assets, but they don't see credit. So we in the lending position see everybody's everything. As such, I will tell you, for our older borrowers, one thing I don't see as much of that I would love to see more of is 401ks. People are not taking advantage of it, and it is found in free money and probably the best investment anybody can tell you to make. Now, 401k, if your employer provides a 401k, please take advantage of it for the following reasons. Number one, let's say the average federal tax rate is 29%. State of Illinois is taxing somewhere around 5%, let's say. So at 29% in federal taxes, 5% going to the state of Illinois, if you were to actually put $1 in the 401k, that dollar is non-taxed dollar. So you immediately save, in the example I just gave you, about 34 cents on that dollar. 34 cents saved instantly. Every dollar you goes into your 401k doesn't get taxed. It's an instant savings. The next part about this is matching. Most companies who provide a 401k have a match. If they have a match, that's instant interest and instant money that you're going to make. With Cross Country here, all of our staff, which I highly, highly encourage, take advantage of your 401k. We match 50% of the first 6% somebody takes out of their check. So for that 6% that they took out of their check, they instantly made 50%, regardless of what the stock market does. The stock market could not make a penny in the next 12 months, and they made 50% return on their money. Incredible program. Now, the good news is that the stock market actually does often return a positive rate of return. Now, right now, the stock market's getting beat up, but that's a normal part of the cycle. So we're going to go to the next slide. Here's the stock market over the past 30 years. You'll notice one thing about this slide that we've chosen. If this investment was roughly a little over $5,000, 30 years later, without any other money being added, this investment's worth over $30,000. The S&P 500 is a very simple index to invest in. Minesh, what is the S&P 500?
Very good question, Rich. And I know it is bandied around a lot in the TV circles and radios and other places. S&P 500 is the list of 500 top publicly traded companies. It doesn't mean they are the most high revenue, but there is a certain way that they have designed. So most of the companies that you buy from, whether it is Walmart, Walgreens, you fly on United Airlines, you buy a Ford car, GM car, these companies are publicly traded, they have stock. And that company is on the S&P 500. And based on that, there is an investment process called S&P 500 index. And there are different companies which will offer you a product or a way for you to invest in S&P 500, diversifying your money across 500 of the top companies in the country.
So then, and over the last 25 years, so you set up your 401k, you're like, I don't know what to invest in, which by the way, somebody like Minesh can help you. Most 401ks have some sort of formula embedded in them that says that measures your risk tolerance based on your age and when you want to retire. They'll give you some guidance. If you did anything else and just said, hey, look, I don't know where to put this 401k money, and you invested it in the S&P 500, the average rate of return over the last 25 years for the S&P 500 is 9%. 9% over the last 25 years. So if you just put your money there, by the way, one last thing about the S&P 500, that index typically beats the average mutual fund. What about 99 out of 100 times, Minesh?
Yes, pretty
Mutual
common.
funds, yeah, mutual funds. So they hire somebody to pick a bunch of stocks and invest in, and they try, the goal is to outrun the S&P 500. The S&P 500 wins every time at an average rate of return at 9%. If I'm returning an average, Manish, here's the tough trick question for you. So if I'm earning 9% on my money, how often will my money, or how much time will it take for my money to double?
Very good question. It's 8 years and the rule of 72 applies. So 72 divided by the interest will give you the number of years that it will actually double. So in 25 years, your money would have doubled 3 times.
That's incredible. And I'm adding money to it every month through the 401k. So absolutely incredible. So again, these are just some basic roadblocks. We'll talk about investments. So this is our wealth accumulator. We talked about number one, own a home. That's the best investment that you could make. Roof over your head, you're building equity. Next thing we talk about, you protect the home, get a will, get some term life insurance to protect the property. Then protect your own finances by having a 3 to 6 month reserve account. Last but not least, max out your 401k. How much could somebody put in this year if they're under 50 years of age?
19,500.
Perfect. And now here's the other piece of it. I do encourage you to do some investing on your own once you've maxed out your 401k. If you take extra, you get into this pattern now where you're saving money and you take money and you put it in the bank is paying out less than 0.5%. I don't even want Minesh to tell me how many years it's going to take for less than 0.5% to double my money, right? And the rule is 72. I mean, that's ridiculous. So the point of the matter is you should pick a few stocks yourself to invest in specifically. And Minesh may not agree with this, but I think financial education is really important. Well, how do you get educated? Do some of your own investing. And it doesn't have to be that hard. Use Warren Buffett's method. He simply invests in things that he likes, products that he likes. Warren Buffett goes to McDonald's every morning. You think he's got McDonald's stock? He does. That's the history with him. He goes to McDonald's every morning. So if you like Ford, invest in Ford. If you like Lululemon, invest in Lululemon. Get a handful of stocks to invest in and just watch them, read about them, learn a little bit about them, learn about things. As you're investing into them, you'll go, I really want to, what is a PE ratio? Maybe you just spend an hour on the internet and just research that so you know a little bit better about it. Do some of your own investing. So this way, when you talk to people like Minesh, you'll be a little bit more educated about the process and it'll make it a little bit easier to save some money. And with that, this is kind of our roadmap that we have for you guys. Minesh, do you have anything to add?
Well, first of all, you're doing a great service to your people because this is something which should have been taught in high school, colleges, employers, even at home, and this is not being done. And you are taking the responsibility of, hey, you know what? We have been helping you to buy a home, like you said, get in debt. Let's create a plan for you. Let's give you the support so that you can actually be financially free sooner. And that's really the foundation that you're providing to people. My simple opinion is about all of this is very simple. I made tons of mistakes early on. I had more credit card debt. And that's one of the reasons I'm very passionate about it, because I know the mistakes cost me a lot more money than if I had started at a young age. And Muskan is 18, and a lot of people don't understand this, that at 18, when she starts investing, in fact, because she's in business with me and I have a business of my own, I was able to set up a Roth IRA. We didn't cover all of that, and I'm not going to cover that much in detail, but we opened her Roth IRA at the age of 14, which is for her retirement. And for the money she already has, just putting in S&P 500, she'll have well over $1 million by the time she's over 60.
That's
And she doesn't have to
incredible.
put any more money in it.
That's incredible. So, well, I wanted to ask if anybody has any questions about this. Again, we are going to do the budget class next month. So this will now become something we do every other month, with the budget class being in between. Budget class is a phenomenal class because we'll show you how to use that form, show you how to track it. And it's so much easier to save money when you know what you spend. One thing I want to say about the budget class, because everybody, budget seems like a dirty word, like, ooh, Rich is going to tell me not to buy that $6 latte. No, I'm not going to tell you to buy the $6 latte. When we do the budget class, we're actually doing it after you spent all your bills, or spent all your money for the month. Our budget class basically is, let's be aware of what's going on with our money. Let's watch what's going on with our savings. And then once you start seeing it and it's in one form and one place you can look at, you could start making changes. You could start tracking your savings. You could start tracking the debt going down. And the most important, or one of the most important things, is the fact that if one of you in your 2-income household is the one that pays the bills, when you finish the budget form, you should do yourself a favor and your significant other a favor. Spend 5 minutes and say, hey, look, this is the money we brought in. This is the money that we spent. This is the money that we saved. Make sure that person has somewhat of an idea what's going on with the financial household. God forbid something happens to the person that's actually making the bills and everything. That other person should have some awareness of what's going on. And to be honest with you, if you're arguing about money, share this form. It makes the arguments go away because both of you now know what's going on income and expense wise. We do have, Tony's put a couple things in the chat. A week from today, we have our credit presentation with Jim Drusky from Illinois Credit Services. We've done business with Jim for about 12 years. He's helped a lot of our clients repair their credit. Anything you need to know about credit scores, come listen to the expert. He's been a federal witness testifying on issues of credit. This is the guy you want to talk to. We're very blessed. He's based right here in Plainfield. So he'll be here. There's a link for that. Our budget class will be next month on April 16th. We'll walk through how to build out a budget. I always want to thank Tony. Minesh beat me to the punch. He says it ahead of time. I always thank her in the end for making all this happen. So I really do appreciate her tremendously. And I appreciate Minesh and Muskan being on here. If you guys have any other questions, send that through the chat. And again, this is just a service that we provide because I want, as our company motto says, more than a mortgage. We want to be more than a mortgage to our clients, and we want to provide more value. And I know this provides value. So thank you guys for attending.
Quick point, can I?
Go ahead, Minesh. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so here is what I was saying, people are not being taught. So talk to your brother, sister, neighbor, and tell them to be on the class that he's going to be conducting. The next one coming up is credit. After that is coming up with budget. Here is the reality. 76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. I would tell you over 80% cannot come up with $1,000 if an emergency occurred today. I mean, that's the level of financial illiteracy. And what Rich is providing you with Tony's support here, and we are here to support you, is that maybe you're not in that place. You are much better place than those people are. But what about the people you know in your life? 76% is 3/4. So if you're talking to 4 people, 3 of them need this information today. So Rich, I really appreciate you doing that for people.
Yeah, thank you very much, Minesh. Yeah, it's really important to me. We're in a very blessed position. We help people get into houses, but I want them to be more financially fit. We spent a lot of time thinking about putting this program on together. Honestly, it wouldn't happen without Tony's help to make sure that these PowerPoints get done. So we're happy to bring the information. Minesh is right. If you know of somebody who could use this help, even if they're young, I mean, look at Muskan. She started investing at 14. So even if they're young, it's never too soon to learn this stuff. And honestly, the Latte Factor is a great book for somebody young. So that is a great book. As a matter of fact, Jessica, I'm actually going to, because you participated in our questions, we're going to send you a copy of the Latte Factor. So thank you guys. Any other questions? Let's get them in the chat. Otherwise, we thank you guys for attending. Stay warm out there today. And it's a little chilly. Minesh, thanks. I knew you had an early morning flight to make it here. I appreciate it. Muskan, thank you. Tony, thank you. Thank you guys for attending. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.